Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back down under the mat. We are here in Madison Square Garage around the pool table of relevancy. To my left is Mr. Dan Danielson. I'm Roddy Reece. We're here to talk about all things professional wrestling. And we're going to kick it off in a bit of a sour way today, addressing the recent slew of WWE releases.
Sad news.
Yes, a lot of sad news this week. It's come out in a few different waves. We're going to quickly run down the list and talk about it all. So we'll kick it off.
Can we start with your boy?
My boy, Giovanni Vinci. Very, very sad about it. They just shouldn't have gotten rid of him from Imperium.
I feel like this is very similar to what we had with the releases last year when they released people. The example that I'll give was Indy Hartwell when she was released. Yeah. The fact that she was in storyline stuff with Candice LeRae, she was on SmackDown every week. She'd had a match filmed and taped for the next week's SmackDown when she got released. It seems like there's a miscommunication between talent and creative. Because you look at Vinci, right? And admittedly, he didn't do much, but he had all those vignettes when he was coming back to SmackDown, where he was going back to that Italian character, and he got beat by Apollo Crews in like 4 seconds or whatever it was. But like they were clearly like putting him on TV. They were using him for something, and now, see ya.
Yeah, bye.
I don't
get it.
Yeah, look. As soon as Imperium broke up, Vinci was unfortunately the one that was on the way out.
Yeah, it's a damn shame because I think if you compare him and Ludwig, I think Vinci's got more talent in ring-wise. But
controversial.
No, Ludwig's got a great character and he's good in the ring, but I reckon Vinci's better in the ring. And it's just like that character work where it hasn't quite hit properly.
Don't know if I agree with that statement, but okay.
Maybe I'm just a little biased.
Man, I
like me some Vinci.
I've watched a lot of bangers from Kaiser and Sheamus to make me think that Kaiser is better than Vinci. Because I don't remember Vinci.
It's because I haven't given him the opportunity.
Yeah, valid point. Yeah. Who else sadly got released?
Cedric Alexander. He's been out in NXT recently doing stuff with Javon Evans. Was briefly with Ashante the Adonis as well. So he was kind of like jumping back and forward, floundering a little bit.
Is he about to go hurt people?
I think he's about to go hurt
people. Hurt people.
We hurt people.
We hurt.
I'm shut all over that theme music when it came out.
It's stuck in your head, right?
It's catchy. I'll give it to him. It's catchy.
Look, I think he is very talented. Ever since they had him in the 205 and all the cruiserweight stuff, like he is really good in ring, and he was really good with the Hurt Syndicate, Hurt Business when they were in WWE. I almost guaranteed the second he was released, MVP and Bobby Lashley put a call to Tony Khan. I'm like, hey, bro, we got another one. Yeah. 90 days, he'll be in AEW for sure.
Absolutely. Speaking of 90 days, someone who directly referenced 90 days in an Instagram story, Isla Dawn has been released.
Well, I don't think that one's fully confirmed. It probably will be by the time this video goes out.
Yes.
But right now, we've just, she's...
No news of Alba Fire yet, but Isla Dawn's put that story up on Instagram, so she's confirmed that either released or contract's not renewed. So, and that was one thing that came out about. I think it was Sonya Deville. Her contract was not renewed, not that she was released.
Yes,
so that's another one that's
real shame because everyone has been so behind PFC.
Everybody loves PFC.
I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the Royal Rumble when they had the spot with all three of them in the Rumble and being big heels and zero heat. Nobody cared.
And
look, it's
unfortunate. I've seen people come out already. I saw a post this morning as I was scrolling social media while watching SmackDown because I had to catch up this morning. Somebody directly blamed the zero aura of Shayna and Zoe for the reasoning behind Sonya getting...
Nah.
Which is absolutely ridiculous.
It's poor booking. Yeah. Shayna, if you go back a few years for when she came up from NXT and tore through the Elimination Chamber and stuff, Shayna has... She's got the
potential.
She has absolute main character energy. She really should be a good character. Zoe, I think that whole feud that she did with Trish was very good. And Sonya, I think, was a brilliant mouthpiece for both of them. I think if they managed the three of these girls correctly, and gave them something to actually sink their teeth into, they'd be good heels.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
PFC, that name, that theme, the music, it all just was mid and terrible. And as soon as they were called Pure Fusion Collective,
Bit of a weird one.
it's like I don't want to be that guy, but it sounded like a expensive bougie lesbian underwear store. But it
It's
didn't,
very specific.
but it didn't sound like a wrestling like faction.
Yeah.
Pure Fusion Collective.
It does sound a bit like a clothing brand.
It's a fashion brand.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was their downfall, I think, and unfortunately, Sonya couldn't get past the poor creative booking.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate some of these people are being released for the second time. Good segue
third.
onto Authors of Pain and Paul Ellering, which is kind of funny because they just come back recently, and then Paul was off TV, and then he came back, and then nothing. Just nothing.
Yeah, look, I think we talked about this last year when Uncle Howdy killed Paul Ellering on screen. We were like, oh well, that's he's
writing him off.
He's written off TV and he's gone now. That's fine. They can't afford to, fly a 60-something or 70-year-old man all across the country doing SmackDown shows or Raw shows or whatever it was. It's cool. AOP will be all right. That'll be the meat for Carrion. But then the last few months, it's just been Carrion and Scarlett. They haven't really done anything with AOP. They've had Miz more involved with him.
Yeah. Since that Uncle Howdy feud sort of wrapped up, we haven't seen Authors of Pain, and they haven't even showcased them in any backstage vignettes at all. It's just been Carrion, Miz, and Scarlett, and they're focusing on that trio there.
And I like the big dudes. I think they're a good big tag team. They're much more agile than their size would indicate.
Yeah.
And they're probably a fine filler tag team. But I also feel like WWE have got enough of that at the moment. They don't really need them. What my issue with this whole thing was Paul Ellering and the fact that maybe it's just me from someone who came into wrestling around the Attitude Era and above, and you're probably the same. I don't remember Paul Ellering from the 90s and the 80s. I don't care about him. And I think everybody that does remember someone like Ellering is from that really early era of pro wrestling. They wouldn't care about AOP.
Yeah.
So you've put two different things together to try and get two parts of the fan base aligned on a character group, and neither of them actually clicked.
Yeah. I think it worked very well in the black and gold era of NXT. AOP were over during that time period. They had Paul Ellering there. He was doing well as their manager. He was getting involved in matches. He was doing backstage.
Yeah, but he was talking then, right?
Yeah.
None of that
the
on the main
problem
roster.
with the move to the main roster recently for AOP and bringing Paul Ellering back there was none of that.
Yeah. Yeah, look, surplus to needs, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's why they kind of got released. Same as the other tag team that got released this morning, Gallows and Anderson.
Yeah, good brothers.
Sucks because AJ's just come back in the Rumble.
Yep.
And you'd be
There was
thinking,
always the opportunity to bring them back up on the main roster and tie them in with whatever story they have for him, but
yeah, but I think
it's gone out the window now.
They've put a lot of effort into Michin herself, away from the Good Brothers and from AJ. And I think she's doing quite well as a character now on SmackDown with all the stuff with Chelsea.
It's getting a bit stale now.
If they keep doing the same match over and over again, yes. But AJ being drafted to Raw, I think, is probably a hint that he's probably going to start feuding maybe with Logan Paul, who eliminated him from the Rumble.
Yeah.
And if you're doing AJ versus Paul, you don't need the Good Brothers with AJ. You want them single stars, one-on-one. And as much as Gallows and I think Gallows and Anderson are the kind of guys that will get released. If they still think they've got stuff in them, they'll go around the indies. They'll do some stuff at Defy or wherever they want to do it. I don't see them going back to TNA or AEW. But I think those two are
I was about to say AEW, but
nah, I don't say it. Those two are the perfect guys to put backstage in NXT.
yeah.
They can teach you how to do tag team wrestling. They teach you how you run your characters. When they were down there and they were feuding with Hank and Tank and Joe Coffey and
Joe Coffey
and them.
Yeah.
That was what I think the great use of those kind of guys. They're not going to have a run to win the NXT tag or the WWE tag titles at any point in time. But I think they are very experienced, very good in the ring, and very good with their characters. And they're probably better to go into a backstage or a training role sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But again, same as AOP, surplus to requirements for what WWE has. They have such a big roster these days. There's always going to be names that aren't going to get used. And as much as I love the OC, wasn't going to get booked
Yeah,
anytime
it's
soon.
unfortunate. Last release, probably just about as baffling as the Sonya Deville one, was Blair Davenport, who was confirmed by Fightful Select, imminently bound to be part of the secret Hervis with Chelsea and Piper, which I had my keen eye on SmackDown the other week, and I noticed that detail in the background. So hearing that news, I was like, she was literally about to be involved with Chelsea week in, week out on TV, and then just gone.
Again, I guess what we said at the start, it seems like creative and
It's just
HR
like,
aren't
where's the
talking to each other.
communication? It just doesn't make sense. It's like they look at the books and they look like, this person, we pay them this much. This is how much we get from their merchandise. It doesn't work. Boom, done. Get out of here.
I mean, I legit reckon...
From a business perspective, that's the smart way to do things. But the fact that that business side of the company and the actual booking of the weekly shows and building the stories and the television, it seems to be that discommunication. And it's like, TV is doing one thing. And like I said it before, when we had Alistair Black getting weekly vignettes to build up his new character, and then the business side of it, they cut him. It just doesn't make sense. There's not proper communication. Bring out a list of people. Hey, here's opportunities where we want to cut. Run that past the TV people. Oh, we're going to be using this person. That person, we've got nothing for them. So, like, give them at least, I don't want to say seal of approval, but like put them on the chopping board. Essentially.
Yeah, give them some.
Let them review before you just drop people. Like, it doesn't make sense.
I think the problem with Blair too is that when she was called up to SmackDown, since then she's had like 6 matches.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Nearly a year.
And that's another thing that I've seen a lot of people talking about. If they're going to call people up, and we saw it with a slew of call-ups last year.
I mean, the
Odyssey Jones.
I was going to say Odyssey Jones is the clear
Kiana
example.
James. Mello's doing all right now, but like he's not being booked well. Blair Davenport. Like so many of these NXT call-ups just flounder because you call them up, but you don't have anything for them.
Baron Corbin.
Dijak.
Yep.
We can probably sit here listing a bunch of people.
I think it sucks for her, and again, I think it's just surplus to requirements. There's just too much talent. I want to touch on the point that you made there around business and the numbers against the push and that kind of stuff. And we want to talk to someone that you wanted to discuss on the podcast, and I want to talk about Jey Uso because obviously we have
Mr. Royal Rumble himself,
the King of the Ring, thanks to R-Truth, Jey Uso.
So good.
It was great. It's a great little segment. That was fun. But obviously, there's been a lot of discourse this week online because of Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble last week. And if you go back and you watch our reaction, we were disheveled, shocked, possibly disappointed.
I don't think I was ever mad about it.
I don't think we were angry.
I just thought, like, with the star power that we had in that Rumble, like Roman Reigns, John Cena, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, AJ Styles. Like, you had
Logan
so
Paul.
much main event talent that could have won that Rumble. And that everyone was expecting to win that Rumble.
And I think...
But then it was Jey Uso.
What you have to look at is, we'll talk about, I guess, what he's done this week on TV since, and why I think they're really backing their decision. But if you look at what you said with the business side of things, right? There are the top 3 merch sellers in WWE and have been for a while now. Number 1, John Cena, who is a superstar for the last 25 years, everybody's favorite, probably the greatest of all time. Understood that Cena, every time he puts out a different colored t-shirt, someone's buying it, right? So number
Green
one,
me.
Makes total sense. Number 2, Cody Rhodes, face of the company, your champion, finished the story, WrestleMania main eventer 2 years in a row, 2 Rumble winner, like everything behind him. Yes, of course, he should be the biggest merch seller you've got. Number 3, Jey Uso.
Yeah. Speaks volumes.
Now, I think that is the part where somebody like Nick Khan or the business people or those behind the books look at this and say, why are we not pushing? Why is this guy not a champion? And you can look at it from a story perspective. You say, well, he's a tag team guy and he's got this and there's Roman and there's this, that, and the other. I'm like, yeah, but he's outselling all of their merch. Yeah. He walks out on Raw and you get 11 and a half minutes of the crowd yeeting because that's all they want to do. And to open Netflix, it's just 10 minutes straight of the crowd yeeting.
Yep.
He's selling merch. The crowd loves him. He's popular. He's okay in the ring. I'm not going to put too much stock into
Let's
his
just
actual...
not talk about WrestleMania last year and focus on
we'll
this
leave
year.
that alone. But I think a lot of that sort of bodes as to why he's now gotten the push that he's got. And I think from what we've seen on Raw and SmackDown so far this week, he is taking the ball and running with it. And I think that
absolutely.
hopefully the creative push that they do with him now backs the business push that I think that they have had to do for him. And this leads to a very strong road to WrestleMania and Jey getting a prominent spot on that card and assumedly winning
a
world title.
Yeah. So we'll quickly touch on his Raw appearance and then an interesting parallel that I thought about while I was watching Raw this week. Came out, open Raw, as he said, 15 minutes. He did his entrance, and then we got an encore entrance as well. So in the ring, started the music again, everyone's yeeting.
Did the same thing on SmackDown.
Yep, did the same thing on SmackDown. So he's lining up Gunther. Now, in the couple of days between the Royal Rumble and Raw, I decided to myself, rather than being shocked and stuff or be angry about Jey Uso winning the Rumble over all that other main event talent, I'm jumping on board. I'm just going to jump on board. I'm not going to be a crabby old man about it.
You're a Raiders fan, so you're used to bandwagoning.
Now, talk about that. So, interesting parallel that I saw after this promo with Gunther. Because Jey Uso, he has come up short against Gunther several times, and I believe if they go that route, that story is going to be he knows what it takes to beat Gunther.
You mean the same story that Sami Zayn had against Gunther last year at WrestleMania when he knew what it took to beat him for the Intercontinental title?
Yep.
It's the same story, right?
It's the same story. Chad Gable won't be involved in this one, but it's the same story. So I think there's good layers of storytelling there for the win to come up for Jey beating Gunther at WrestleMania. During that 11, 15-minute promo, the entrance, sorry.
Yep.
I thought about the interesting parallel of the Yeet movement. I feel like this is a very close parallel between the Yes movement in 2014 WrestleMania 30 season.
Yeah.
But the part of the Yes movement was that they were kind of backed into a corner to book Daniel Bryan like that because the crowd was so behind him. Whereas I feel like with Jey Uso,
They've tried to take a step earlier.
yes, they've made the decision and shocked a lot of people by him winning the Rumble. And they're like, this is the Yeet movement from here on. That's my way of looking at it.
Okay. I mean...
And I feel like we could potentially, like, I know we've discussed if it's like Roman and Seth, they're going to, a singles match, that's going to main event. But after thinking about that parallel between Yeet and Yes movement, I feel like they'll probably give Jey Uso the main event. And if when he wins, he'll get similar treatment. He'll be there. Confetti will just be falling down everywhere.
I almost guarantee that Jey opens night 2. Like, I think that if you've got night 1 of WrestleMania, the whole crowd's fresh, everyone's keen, everyone's pumped, they're going to be pumped from start to finish, right?
Yeah.
Second day, I think is a bit harder to get people in because you had a whole
that's
long
good
day
way
of
to get
WrestleMania.
people into it to start with.
You start the night with everyone yeeting and everyone's bang, straight up to the top.
Get that adrenaline pumping. I think that's a good idea. I know a lot of people will probably be mad about the fact that he might not get the main event. Because, like, that's always the story, right? You win the Rumble, you main event WrestleMania.
Yes.
But several times in the past, we have had Rumble winners not main event.
And, I mean, now...
Seth Rollins against Brock Lesnar, they opened WrestleMania. Shinsuke and AJ Styles, they were sort of mid-card at WrestleMania 34.
And now that you've got a men's and a women's, like, unless you're having both of them night 1, night 2, someone's not main
hard to line
eventing.
that up.
So I think it's a great opener for night 2. I think last year you had the World Heavyweight title start night 2 with Drew and Seth. I think it kind of makes sense if that's the path that he goes down.
Kind of lines up with that. While we're on Jey as well, I want to talk about his appearance on SmackDown.
Well, before you get to that too, I can't remember the exact way that someone put this, but you mentioned the Yeet movement and how this is very similar to the Yes movement, right?
Yeah.
It's also very similar to finishing the story in that he's always been in his father's shadow. He's always had his brother around to defend him and to look out for him. But now, finally, he's getting his chance at a world title. He's got to sort of win the Rumble to get there, to get his first world championship, It's the same story that Cody had 2 years ago.
Yes, and that's what I want to talk about. Jey and Cody was alluded to heavily on SmackDown. And I think that's a really good thing about both potential challenges for Jey is he's got history with Gunther and there's a good story to tell there. He's got history with Cody as well and there's a great story to tell there. Having him go against Cody would be absolutely amazing. I feel like possibly the better option would to be have Jey go against Gunther, sorry.
Yeah.
And then this is the other parallel I thought about this week with the storytelling they're doing. Because Jey specifically mentioned, I could stand next to you as World Heavyweight Champion after WrestleMania.
Yep.
And I instantly thought back to WrestleMania 20 with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero and that the pinnacle of the show, the go-home shot, them in the ring, both raising their championships, confetti everywhere.
Happen. And then they can have a few libations. Do you feel him, sir?
Do you feel him, sir?
Yeah, oos. Look, I think that's very, very close to probably happening. Yeah. I think that's a good picture of it. To play devil's advocate to this, and we've kind of all come across the idea of Jey, and I think that we're all good. I'm not going to be a party pooper. Maybe a little bit. WrestleMania 40 last year, Jimmy versus Jey Uso, was the worst match of the year. Yeah. Like, to everybody.
Everybody did it. Everybody rated it there.
The worst match.
It was unfortunate.
It was a good build, brother versus brother. We didn't know that we wanted to see it, but when they were going to do it, we're like, all right, let's see this.
Yeah, I feel like we wanted more technicality because, like, when you look at the history of brother versus brother matches, like
Matt and Jeff.
Brett and Owen set the bar pretty high with that. Matt and Jeff did fantastically.
Undertaker and Kane was kind of a different beast, but
yeah, like I think those three other brother matches that they've done, like Brothers of Destruction, kind of, I get it,
brothers.
They're great at storytelling in the ring and the technical side as well. Whereas I don't think that's something that Jimmy and Jey have sometimes.
This is my gripe, right? I love Jey as a character. I think Jey yeeting the whole crowd, the merch, the lot, fantastic. You put him in a main event spotlight, you give him a big match, singles match, him and Jimmy, nah, terrible. Him and the Gunther matches have all been good. I wouldn't say great. They've been fine. So for someone to have had probably the worst match on last year's WrestleMania card to now win the Rumble main event, the next year's WrestleMania is a bit of a stretch to me. And people have for years given crap to John Cena for his 5 moves of doom. I don't even know if Jey Uso has 5 moves.
Super kick and splash.
Super kick, splash,
3.
Samoan drop, spear.
4.
But like he doesn't do anything else. And I think that to me is my main gripe with Jey Uso, is that I am not, I know they hate the word moveset, but I am not enamored by his moveset. He doesn't do enough in the ring to get excited about his wrestling skill, especially when you're going to put him up against someone like Gunther that has so many different moves, so many different ways to finish you. You know Jay's going to finish you with super kick, spear, splash, done. And I think that, to me, takes some of the aura away from Jey, is that I just don't see him as that kind of wrestler. You look at guys like Omega, Okada, Ospreay, Cody, Seth, Roman less. All of them have so many different moves and so many different spots that you can see them pull out in a match. I don't think Jey has that repertoire. And I think that, to me, is a hindrance to having him as your top face, top world champion in your company, is that he's limited in his moves. And if you can throw in a fisherman's buster or some form of submission move or something new between now and WrestleMania, great. But as he is now, his entrance and yeet and the crowd and his aura gets him over. His wrestling doesn't.
Touchy. Can't wait to see some comments about this stuff.
Sorry.
That's all right. While we're touching on the weekly stuff, big advancements in the world of the Elimination Chambers.
Yes.
We've had 3 confirmed participants for the Men's Rumble, being John Cena, who automatically put himself in the chamber, which is fine. CM Punk and Sami Zayn had a brilliant main event on Monday Night Raw.
That was
CM
a very,
Punk,
very good match, man.
So good. CM Punk was victorious, and he joins John Cena. And then Drew McIntyre defeated Jimmy Uso and LA Knight on SmackDown to insert himself into the Elimination Chamber.
And so now we know we've got Seth versus Finn Balor for one spot, and we have Ray versus Logan Paul for one spot.
I think Seth and Logan get through.
And then you've got Damien versus Fatu versus Braun Strowman.
I think that one's more interesting because I could see all three of those men in the chamber. I said to you offline, I think the recent history with Jacob Fatu and Braun Strowman is going to get in the way of either of them securing the victory, and Damien will capitalise on that, and he'll get through the chamber.
I think that's probably fair. So that means our chamber, which is probably not too dissimilar to what we already predicted.
We almost predicted it.
We said Roman would be in there, but then obviously news came out with the Seth stomp and stuff afterwards, the injury angle that he's got. Is it spine or like...
Spina bifida?
They said he's got some issues and concussions and whatnot. Essentially, that is to write Roman off the Elimination Chamber.
So he doesn't have to take a pin.
Correct. If you book him into the chamber, unless he wins, Roman has to get pinned.
Yep.
And
you don't want that.
They don't like that. They don't like the tribal chief.
Even if
being
someone
pinned.
did the old come in while the door's open or from under the ring and decimated Roman, still the fact that he would get a pin would not look good.
Well, because the only people that have pinned him anytime recently, Cody, Solo, Jey.
Yeah, that's it.
And so they're really protecting that position. So if you put him in there and he had to get pinned by Punk or something, unless that's going straight to your Mania match, they don't want to do it. So Roman's out, which makes sense. So you got Cena, Punk, Drew, and then we assume Seth, Logan, Damian Priest.
Yeah.
I think from that you've got Damian and Drew, which is the rumored WrestleMania match.
Yep.
That probably starts in the chamber somehow. Yep. You've got the rumor of Seth, Punk, and Roman as your triple threat. I've
seen a lot of people saying it's just going to be Seth and Roman because Punk doesn't quite tie into that story well enough yet. What do you do with
Punk?
Yeah,
unless you do Punk Cody, and Punk wins the chamber.
And that's the problem. Shit's so unpredictable right now. I just don't know what to think.
Because the thing is that, the assumption that we still have is Jay's going to Gunther, right?
Yeah.
Which means whoever wins this chamber goes to Cody.
A lot of reports are saying Cena's winning the chamber and facing Cody, and I just don't know if that's what I want to see at WrestleMania.
No, we want this story. We've said
it was 17, but I don't know if that's...
Cena needs to come up short every single time.
Yeah.
And I think that he needs to come up second in the chamber
Absolutely.
and not quite make it. And I think there was news this week, which we can touch on now as well, is that there's rumours that we've said our story for John Cena the whole year. I love the idea. He wins Money in the Bank, he can't cash in a year, and he does it in his last match in December. They've now started talking that in December, they're going to have a pay-per-view, and they're going to call it Ruthless Aggression. John Cena.
It's going to be John Cena's final match.
Either in Boston or arounds, or probably Madison Square Garden on the 27th of December. So instead of having their big 27th of December house show that they normally have at Madison Square Garden, it's going to be a pay-per-view called Ruthless Aggression. It's going to be John Cena's last match. He's going to win his world title.
We predicted it months ago.
It's going to happen. So I don't think he wins the chamber. And if you're going to have him win the chamber then lose at Mania, I don't think that's what you need. I think Cena needs to win his last Mania match. Yeah. So I think that takes him out. I don't think Damian or Drew win it. I don't think Seth wins it if you're going to go Cody. So I think this now leads that Punk's winning the chamber.
I with the story that they've been able to sow this year so far with Punk and Cody, we had that promo on SmackDown a couple of weeks back. That was just... The tension there was just palpable. It was building anticipation for that face-off. So I feel like that's a really good route to go with this WrestleMania
and that
story.
Could headline night 2 of WrestleMania.
Yeah.
CM Punk, Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship would main event.
Yeah. But who does Cena face then?
Because
if you've got Logan Paul and AJ in mind...
I think Cena essentially plays a open challenge.
Oh, the whole Undertaker thing where he's just I'm waiting for the Undertaker.
Kind
I'm
of,
be a fan
or like what Seth did when Cody returned.
Yeah, okay.
And he's just I'm going to go to WrestleMania. I'm going to win my last match. I'm going to have a big match. And they're going to give us, finally... No, I was going to go memeing it, but I'm not going to. I reckon Randy Orton. Surprise return at WrestleMania, and we finally get our Orton-Cena big WrestleMania match that they've had a lot of matches.
A lot over the years.
I think a fitting end for John Cena's WrestleMania career is a match with Randy Orton.
I like that idea. Let's run with it. Let's get the IWC involved and let's manifest it. Manifest it. Moving on, I want to talk about some AEW stuff.
Before you move on from that, I think the last part of Raw, we were talking about how good that Punk and Sammy match was, which was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, the Kevin Owens spot afterwards. Almost forgot.
Obviously coming out, package pile driving Sammy. Huge. I love the selling of KO, that he was still wobbling and he couldn't run in properly from everything that happened.
He's such a good character and he's so good at acting. It's amazing.
I was talking to Lockie when we were watching this, and I was very clear, and I made him sort of watch really closely how well KO and Sammy do the pile driver, because we tried to explain to him last weekend, I think it was, or when we were watching the Rumble, that people don't do pile drivers because they're really dangerous, because you can get your head on the mat, and as soon as your head hits the mat with everyone's body weight above you, it's big trouble.
Ricochets up your spine.
But you watch it, and you watch it in the slow-mo. KO does it, and it's safe because Sammy's head's above where it should be. So I can point to Lockie. I was like, look, you can see where he's doing it here. You see KO's bum's here. Sammy's head's here. He's not hitting the ground. But then you also watch, when they're doing it, Sammy lifts. Perfectly done, but it looks brutal because KO jumps. And everyone just goes, oh my God, look at this happen. Sammy's now out, which means, what do we do at the chamber? Like, Toronto is where the Elimination Chamber is. You've got Sami Zayn, you've got Kevin Owens, two big Canadians. Is that the match we're doing?
Just writes itself.
And then do we have a replay for those two at WrestleMania, assuming they're not in any of the major title feuds?
Yeah, that's the weird thing, because
or do they just not do it in Toronto? Nah, surely they've got to give the Canadians.
Yes, but Randy's still off TV after getting his pile driver.
Yeah, Cody came back pretty quickly. Ish.
It's Cody. He's the face of the company. I feel like you could write Sammy out until just after Chamber. Make the Canadian crowd mad that you're not giving them that match.
Yeah, but when you look at a couple of years ago, you look at Elimination Chamber, and I know it was a different time, but when Sammy was facing Roman at Elimination Chamber in Montreal, and I know Montreal is his home crowd, I still cannot get out of my head that SmackDown beforehand where he just stood in the ring and they just cheered for him for 10 minutes and he couldn't say a word. The crowd just, and I'm not disrespecting Jey on this. Jey's, and it gets the crowd involved, right? Yeah. Sammy didn't do it. Sammy just stood there, and the crowd would just constant for him for 10 minutes.
Can't believe we all thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, I know. God, jeez, what a world it would have been. But I don't think they can't have Sammy or KO in Canada. I think they have to be on this Chamber card.
Right. Well, we've only got a few weeks left, so something's got to manifest soon.
Okay. What did you want to talk about for AEW now?
We're talking about KO. I want to talk about the promo on SmackDown too.
And the fact that he re-signed with WWE for 5 years and is not going to AEW, you idiots, whoever thought that was going to happen.
I get the tie-in with the Bucks and the fact that they're old friends, but
by the end of this contract...
KO signed his last contract, he hadn't gotten those two WrestleMania main events yet. And the fact that he's gotten that between then and signing this contract... It just makes sense that he's re-signing because they see value in him as a superstar. The fact that they've given him those two WrestleMania main events.
Yeah. And
with the returning Stone Cold, Steve Austin, for one, and then the first ever tag team title match to main event WrestleMania.
Yeah, for sure. 2021, it was when Danielson left, Adam Cole had left, Aleister Black had left. You're oh, this is the time. Everyone's on an exodus. AEW is going to the moon. And KO was like, no, I'm staying.
Yep.
And he did. And this contract, by the end of it, I think will take him to 2030, which is 16 years or something.
2029. I think also Jordan Grace signed a 5-year contract.
Yep.
So it's been confirmed 5 years. And saw reports, I think it was Wrestling Observer. She's starting in NXT, unfortunately.
Oh, we knew that was going to happen. Oh. But I guess that kind of goes to the point to the start of this podcast. They have to release people to sign Jordan Grace.
Because apparently she's on main roster contract. She's going to be in NXT.
She'll be in NXT for 6 months. Yeah. She won't last long.
Back to KO and his magnificent promo from his car.
I love his
on
car
SmackDown.
Promos. I still think
you could see the tears in his eyes as soon as he started.
This was probably one of his best ones, apart from the one with Michael Cole. But the Michael Cole one in the car was.
I was just waiting for him to drive off with Michael Cole in the car.
That was so funny. This was brilliant, man. The way that he's look at these scars. Look at what happened to me. I'm going to be with me forever. You're supposed to be my friend. And you stood there
And you just watched.
You just watched it. And the thing is, Sammy's going to be off TV for a week or two. He's not going to respond. No. And KO's going to keep driving these nails in. Yeah. I can't wait. And like, as someone who's watched them through ROH and, a big fan of Kevin Steen back in the day and Sami Zayn's good mate and friend and trainer, El Generico, and their matches that they had in ROH, mate, these two can go to the moon if you want them to.
Yeah, absolutely. The part that really got me with that promo, I talked to you about it this morning, was the part where Kevin mentioned the fact that Cody tried to end his career and tried to end his, and just like sort of like stopped. And just the impact and the emotion during that segment, like that section was astounding. I almost don't have words for how much it moved me.
I think if Drew McIntyre didn't have the career that he had last year, KO was the best promo of all last year. Absolutely. And I think this year he is proving it still. He is the best character on TV. I love every single thing that KO does. I love when he's a funny comedic heel. I love that when he was, yelling and making jokes about everything, like you say someone's name and they come out because it's just the trope. I say your name, why are you not here? What's going on? And now him being this absolutely disheveled heel where no one listens to him and he's right. And you're all against me and I was right the whole time. He's so good at every character he plays.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do move on to AEW, I do want to touch on the women's side of things because we had Charlotte on on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT this week. Mm-hmm. I really don't like the way that both Rhea and Tiffany were like, pick me, pick me. It rubbed me the wrong way. And I know last week when we did the Rumble review, I was like, can you imagine if they do Rhea Charlotte 3 at WrestleMania again? I was pumped for it. And then that promo happened and I was like, no. I don't like the way that went down.
What got me too was that if you watched, I'm pretty sure it was on WWE socials, Kathy Kelly was talking backstage after the Rumble with Rhea and Tiffy. Yep. And they were both sitting next to each other. And she said, Charlotte, who wants her? And Rhea kind of looked at Tiffy and was like, look, I've done Charlotte. I've been there. I've done that. I beat her before. Don't need to do it again. You can have her. And walked off. Mm. And then to have Rhea come out and be like, pick me, please. I was like, hang on a minute.
It didn't line up with what happened. And then I get the appeal for the Rhea Charlotte stuff and the fact that it's Charlotte Flair. She's the best women's wrestler on the planet. Yeah. And that people should want to be facing her rather than them being like, no, I don't need to face you. So I kind of get where they're trying to come from. It just rubbed me the wrong way.
I think the reason that they're doing this is they have learnt from last year where they had a story in line, which was The Rock was going to come in and take Cody's thing, and they had their decision made, right? And the crowd were like, no, thank you. Yeah. We want the story, we want Cody Rhodes. Yeah. This year, they are letting the crowd make the decision first in point of Charlotte came out and she obviously wanted to try and cut a face promo and the crowd booed the crap out of her, right? Yeah. And so then she comes out on the SmackDown and like she essentially says, are you going to cheer me or are you going to boo me? And
she got cheered on NXT.
And she was like, well, yeah, because NXT crowd is...
And they're like, oh my God, Charlotte!
Yeah, pretty much. But I think they let the crowd decide. So then now they've had a week of this, they can be like, all right, so now instead of trying to book a face Charlotte against Rhea or something, we're going to go heel Charlotte against Tiffy, slightly turn Tiffy, we can change our story. Yeah. Great, perfect. They've learned from last year into making sure that they made the decision that she won the Rumble. Yep. We didn't choose that. Yep. But now we choose how the story goes. Yep. And they're going to follow what the crowd wants to do. So I think giving Charlotte that open mic and letting the crowd react and even, like she said, I'll wait around next week to see what happens between Tiffy and Nia. So she's not making a choice straight away. You've got a couple of weeks of it. Jey did the same thing, talking to Cody and saying, I've got unfinished business with Gunther, but I wouldn't mind, your title and stuff. Again, it's giving them a couple of weeks to see what these people do because...
We've got 3 weeks until the Chamber, so I'd say...
Yeah.
Even if you leave it to the last shows before the Chamber happens,
yeah,
for those champions to pick, and then at the Chamber you can be like, right, this Chamber is going for that title at WrestleMania, this one for that one.
Because think, like last year's Royal Rumble, Cody Rhodes wins the Rumble.
He points at Roman straight away.
And then they change the story, and everyone, whoa, that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah.
This year, I think they've learnt. Let's see how it plays for a little bit, and then we'll make our choice.
Yeah. Touching on the women's side of stuff, we've had 3 qualify for the Elimination Chamber so far.
Yes.
Liv Morgan defeated Io Sky, which was very surprising to me, to be honest, because
But I think
I thought Io was a shoo-in.
Yeah,
and that was our prediction for Chamber win.
That sets up your Rhea versus Io match at Chamber, I
Yes,
reckon.
Because later in the night, no, it was that match. Rhea came out and
punched Liv and cost Io as
cost
a
Io the
DQ.
win. So if they do go for, and I mentioned this during the week, if they do go for Charlotte Rhea, you can easily insert Io into that fold, and then you can run it back to Black and Gold NXT, because when Charlotte won the Rumble and challenged Rhea and beat her for the NXT Championship, the next pay-per-view was a triple threat where Io Sky won the championship off the two of them. So it'd be really interesting to see how that story unfolds.
Yeah.
We've also had Alexa Bliss just qualify on SmackDown and Bianca Belair.
Yeah, so next week you've got Chelsea versus Naomi, and I assume Naomi gets in for that, and then we're going to probably then tease out the story still of Jade Cargill returning and how that plays out. Because
she returns in the chamber.
Maybe. I think that's fine. My gripe to this segment or the stuff on SmackDown was Alexa Bliss.
Not getting mic time.
Biggest pop when her music hits, no mic, no nothing.
And then an ad break?
Yeah, she came out. Yeah, look,
Jesus.
She looked fine in the ring, and I think she deserves to be in the chamber, obviously. But please let her talk. There is so many questions that we as fans have. Is she with the the White Six stuff came up on the screen?
QR code came up, so
something's
just
involved.
a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
But is it a matter of time before she gets in the chamber, or are we holding this off to WrestleMania? Is she going with the Wyatt Six? Is she going to verse Nikki Cross at WrestleMania? I don't know.
Could be interesting.
But if you're not letting her talk,
we don't know.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, and that's a problem. I can't remember the other qualifying matches from Chamber, to be honest. I assume there's 2 on Raw next week.
Yeah, I legit don't know.
I'm spacing out, dude. I can't remember.
I don't recall.
I feel like Raquel was in one of them. And I was like, she's losing. Anyway. Moving on. I want to talk about AEW because we are 6 days away from AEW Grand Slam Brisbane, Australia. We have 4 confirmed matches for the card. Each of them has an Australian or Australian adjacent competitor in them. I commented on...
Jay White. Good job.
Jay White. He's in New Zealand. We're essentially the same.
It's close enough.
Exactly. It's close enough. We're the same.
I mean, it'd be different. Like it's the same as if you go, England and Scotland are close enough. They're all the same, which is what WWE thinks. But then you talk to like the UK people, are like, fuck off, Scotland. I want nothing to do with you.
Are they not part of the same land mass though?
Yeah, but they hate each other. It's the same. Look, yes, New Zealand is right close to us.
It's the same as like Queensland and New South Wales.
Absolutely. And look, great
way to put it.
We are Anzacs, so we are very close and bonded with our New Zealand brethren. But when it comes to sport and competitive stuff, I goddamn hate New Zealand. They're the worst.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's very similar.
Well, but like for wrestling, like I look at anyone that's from New Zealand, I'm like, yeah.
I'm sure it's probably the same with America and Canada.
Yeah, probably. They absolutely hate each other.
Yeah. Most neighbouring countries do, let's be fair.
So let's quickly run through the card. So we had the first confirmed match, which was Mariah May versus Toni Storm, which is now Timeless Toni Storm.
Her performance as Mariah May on Dynamite this week.
Thick.
Superb.
It's great. We have a confirmed Continental Championship match with Kazuchika Okada versus Buddy Matthews.
Which, correct me if I'm wrong, did Buddy Matthews not eat the pin in a tag match on Dynamite this week?
I thought they won the tag match.
The Hounds of Hell, I'm pretty sure they lost, didn't they? I mean, I haven't watched Dynamite, so...
I did watch Dynamite, I just can't remember.
Because I remember seeing the result that the Hounds of Hell had lost, and I was like, that's weird after he just got announced to face Okada.
Yeah. So there goes the possibility of him winning that title next week.
Oh, please, he's not winning that. For everybody everybody out there on the internet that is booking, we're going to have some title changes or surprises, or the Australians are going to get what they want. It's not happening. This is a collision
All of them are going to job out, aren't they?
They're all going to be great matches, but they're all going to lose. The problem that you have to understand is that this show for us is at like 6 p.m. on a Saturday night, which is like 2:30 in the morning American time. And it's going to be a taped show. It's going to be essentially their collision airing of the night. It's going to be Grand Slam, whatever. It's not going to be 2 hours, or it might be a 2-hour thing, who knows. But Tony Khan came out during the week and saying that they're really proud that the network are letting them go on after the NBA All-Star weekend, so you can have your dunk contest and stuff, and then that'll lead straight into AEW. So they're kind of hoping that they're going to get extra eyes because there'll be more people watching TNT and TBS than there would be, and they're going to get more people flowing into this show. So they're going to put the stars on it, which they have done. They've booked stars to it. I am not expecting anything to happen because that will be replayed 12, 14 hours after it happened.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking that the Young Bucks are going to just pop over from Japan because they're in Japan the night before and it's only a quick 8-hour flight to Brisbane and they're going to go and attack Will Ospreay, no, because everyone will have known that 14 hours before the US sees it.
But what if?
It's not going to happen. So I'm going into this event to watch all of my favorite stars come out, watch their entrances, actually get to see Ospreay and Omega and stuff in person, and watch good 2 hours of in-ring wrestling.
Yeah.
And assume that exactly what I think is going to happen is going to happen.
Yeah, because we've had some massive announcements this week. Aside from you mentioned them running after the NBA. I think the smart bet would potentially be to have Ospreay and Omega open the show against Fletcher and Takeshita, because like you've got Ospreay and Omega, who are some of your biggest stars in the company. Having them on first will hopefully hold the interest for people.
Should do. Yep.
We've also got the confirmation of Cope and Jay White versus Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli in a Brisbane brawl.
Oh, they love their stupid names, don't they?
The fact that we're going to be in an arena seeing Edge. I'm going to call him Edge.
Absolutely,
we're going to see Edge. And we're going to get to sing his theme song. I'm getting tears in my eyes thinking about it. That is one thing that I have not ticked off my wrestling bucket list. And for that to happen is going to be amazing. Because I sent the picture to my mum. Mum's a huge Edge fan.
You'd say an Edgehead?
Edgehead, there we go. I sent her that photo. She's like, oh, that's cool. I was like, I'm going next week. I get to see Edge. Yeah, and she's like, oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah. Tickets still available.
And we've had the confirmation that the Learning Tree, Chris Jericho, will be in Australia as well. So they've, in the last few weeks since we ranted about how shit this show was looking, they've stacked it with star power.
The only one I'm still expecting to be named is Harley Cameron and Mercedes Moné.
And I want to touch on this because Harley on Dynamite this week with the ventriloquism promo and the Mercedes puppet, the best TV I've seen in a long time. I didn't realize she was that good at ventriloquism.
I didn't realize she was that good with writing songs and stuff on the guitar until a couple of weeks ago too.
I knew that she'd done musical stuff because like I've been following her because she's Zion's partner.
Oh, okay.
So I've been following her for a while, and she used to do musical stuff. I think she's had releases and stuff. She used to do performances at bars and clubs and all that sort of stuff. So I knew she had that musical side of it. But the ventriloquism.
It was very good.
And it was like you could look at her and she was just like smiling. Like that's the thing with ventriloquism is like you can see this part move like very slowly.
Look at me, I'm doing really well.
The fact that she pulled it off so well. I really hope that they announce that match. Because then we've got an Australian in every match on the card.
Yeah.
Or
and
Australian adjacent.
I think 5 is fine. You can probably put 5 matches on a 2-hour show. Yeah. Each one gets 20, 25 minutes. Entrances and stuff aside. I think that's what we're going to get.
Yeah.
I think we'll also have some form of pre-show, probably some sort of post-show stuff.
Yeah.
It'll be about 3 or so hours worth of stuff for those in the actual venue. Because someone, Ryan, I made at Slam, was telling us that like it's going to be a 2-hour collision taping. It's all it is. You're going to get 2 hours. Yeah. I appreciate that what I think they will put on TV is a 2-hour collision.
They won't give us 2 hours.
What they'll record is a lot more than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, I'm pumped for it. Considering I think I was going to crap on AEW a smidgen, that last week's Collision episode had 190,000 viewers and a 0.04 rating, which is the, I think, second lowest ever, possibly. It was up against the Royal Rumble. So nobody was going to watch that. If you have a choice between, I don't even care if you had Okada versus Ospreay in a ladder match, I'm watching the Royal Rumble. And then I'll watch the other match later.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Very excited for next week. We are also going to the Pro Wrestling League and Renegades of Wrestling Australian Super Show on the Friday. So if you are in Brisbane for AEW over that weekend and you see us, come say hello. Have a chat to us about wrestling. We're there. We're going to be pumped for absolutely all the wrestling we're watching that weekend. It's going to be a great time.
Is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap up?
I've got nothing else.
There's two quick things that I wanted to sort of touch on. One, which I'm surprised you didn't bring up because you love NXT so much. Fandango was back.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, really? That's...
I had it spoiled before I actually got the chance to watch NXT, so I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
I saw his music and I was like, oh, how do they do this? Because he's not called Fandango anymore.
I saw Santi's reaction.
Yeah.
Like...
that was fun. And him with a match against Lexus King for the Heritage Cup,
which they've changed it. It's just going to be a championship now. No 7 rounds, no 3-minute rounds.
Oh, thank God.
Right?
That was the worst part of that stupid
God.
thing.
I was so interested in the concept of that match to start with, but it got old very quick. So
Yeah.
I'm happy that they're just going to do that.
Yeah, that's great.
But I don't know whether it's just going to be a character thing for Lexus or whether it's going to be a permanent thing moving forward. I feel like it being a permanent thing is going to be the better option.
I think they just need to get rid of it. You've already got your North American title, you've got your mid card, you don't need another one.
There you go.
The last thing I want to touch on, because we were talking about AEW, obviously the big push that we're getting with Swerve and Ricochet. Ricochet had a good match with him on Dynamite where he got a low blow win to win it. I think that's going to lead to something further down the track. But the big point to this is that Samantha Irvin came out during the week. She was on the Jericho Cruise, so she was obviously backstage with all the AEW people. And I can't remember where it was on a podcast or an interview somewhere, where someone was saying, is she done with wrestling? And she said, no. I'm definitely not done with wrestling. I have a lot more to give. I always wanted to be more involved than what I was in my previous employment. So I think I will definitely be back because I have to finish my story. Was what she said. That was her words. No, I'm not. She said.
What do you take out of that, though?
She has to finish. Is that a dig at Cody? Is that a dig at WWE? Because she's
just going to go to AEW, which is exactly what she said she wouldn't do.
But I think that
that's my first train of thought.
She will sit on the fence and say, well, I said I wouldn't go over to AEW as an announcer, and I'm not going to go there to ring announce. I'm going to be a manager, and I'm going to manage Ricochet, and I'm going to be an on-screen talent. And if that's the case, fine, good for you.
Yeah, I'd actually like to see that.
I think that's probably good for her. But yeah, if she had just left WWE as an announcer and then went to AEW as an announcer, I'd be a bit
and I feel like with the impact and emotion she brought to announcing, I feel like she'd easily transition to a managerial role and do fantastically.
If she's better on the microphone than Ricochet, which wouldn't be hard.
I think could be better than Ricochet.
I think it's fine. I think that's probably a good idea because I mean you then kind of need to work her into feuds with Ricochet and who he versus and Swerve and Nana maybe
like what they did with Ricochet and Logan Paul, like work her into the story.
And you have her with Ricochet can go up against Buddy Matthews and the Hounds of Hell, and then you can have her feuding off with Julia, and little bits like that. So it gets her involved in the storylines. I just thought it was quite funny that she said she had to finish her story, and it's a very, very clear jab.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's wrap it up there, unless you've got anything else.
I don't think so. I mean, we could have talked about the MJF and Dustin Rhodes promo, which was very good.
Really good promo. I think they'll put on an absolute barn burner next week.
A lot of it, I think, was unnecessary, and I think a lot of people have said this for MJF for the last couple of weeks.
He's one-trick pony, essentially. A lot of people are saying now, so...
Yeah.
And I mean, I've read reports, actually, that Tony Khan's putting the brakes on the MJF and Jeff Jarrett story.
Yeah, good, because nobody wanted it.
Exactly.
So let's just shift it from a 50-year-old man to another 50-year-old man and make him free with Dustin Rhodes instead.
Great
I think
idea.
that maybe it was Dave Meltzer that came out on the Wrestling Observer, and he did not enjoy this whatsoever because essentially all he's done in this promo is put over Cody as bigger than AEW. Saying that you were in the shadow of your dad.
Little baby brother.
And now you're in the shadow of your little baby brother, which means that Dustin and his company is in the shadow of Cody Rhodes. I mean, he's not wrong.
Again, spitting facts, just like Jeff Jarrett being the last face your company sees before it dies. He's not wrong. They're a little touchy, but he's not wrong. I really liked the passion from Dustin Rhodes during his promo about being 16 years clean and sober.
Oh, great.
Massive props to him.
And actually, the other thing I want to touch on, that I do want to I forgot about this for a second, LA Knight, his promo on SmackDown.
Oh, yes.
This, I think, was great. I think they might have undid it a little bit towards the end, but the fact that he came out and said, no matter what people are going through, men, with your struggles, it's okay to cry. 1,000% agree with that statement.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really glad that someone as masculine and, thing is a big pro wrestler comes out on TV and says that. That is a brilliant thing for men everywhere.
Yeah.
Because 1,000%, like, if you need support, get it. There's places like Beyond Blue and all that sort of stuff for men. And I think that as us as blokes, me, someone who's gone through a lot of family stuff and divorce and things like that, having that, knowing that from people that you look up to, that it is okay to do it, I think that is a very nice promo and a very good sentiment for WWE to put out there. Kind of underpins it a little bit where you said that apart from Drew McIntyre, who just constantly cries.
Mac and
Cryer, which is terrible. But then Adam Pearce also came out on a tweet and said that no more Claymores, it's only Crymores. Now that he's moved. Good jokes, but please don't underpin the actual point of what that promo was and what you're trying to say. So I love seeing these stories where, like we've said for a while, that they dig into realism, they dig into people's personal stories, and when these characters use their prominence and their position on TV, which is something that John Cena has done for years. Him being as big as he was, doing all of these Make-A-Wish and stuff like that, he did so well for the betterment of the world, realistically, not just as a TV character. I think that's when wrestling is really good and it hits right in the hearts of everybody. Don't undermine it too much.
And on that sensitive note, we are going to wrap things up today. Down Under the Mat. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media pages. Come join us on Discord. We've just had Chris from Wrestling Oz Style, another Aussie wrestling content creator, come join us. So
and if you're going to
next week,
if you're going to AW next week, you're going to Brisbane, jump on our Discord and let's set up a meet. Set up a chat and we'll meet up.
There's a couple different shows on the Friday. There's a New Japan Tamashii one on the Sunday, which we will unfortunately miss. But if you're at any of those shows over the weekend, look for this bald face. Look for Dan. But look for me, because I apparently stand out.
Yeah, he does.
Come say hey. If you watch our content all the time, come say hey. Tell us how much you enjoy us. Tell us what you want us to do. Give us some ideas. We do little quizzes. We do little game shows. If you've got an idea that we haven't done, let us know and we'll do it. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Mr. Dan Danielson. I've been Rowdy Reece. We have been in Madison Square Garage around the pool table of relevancy. Thank you for coming back down under the mat, and we will see you next time. Too sweet.